in the New Testament, the story about one of the 12 apostles of Jesus turning into a traitor is regarded as an embarrassment for Christianity. But did you know that the story about the 12 sons of Jacob is an even bigger embarrassment for Judaism? By the way, in the story of Joseph, which is our first reading today, the traitor among the 12 sons of Jacob was also called or named Judas. Of course, we know him better as Judah, but those names are basically the same, whether Judas or Judah. They are both from the Hebrew word Yehudah. Like I said, the betrayal of Joseph by Judah was actually more embarrassing because the rest of the brothers were partners in crime. Imagine, human trafficking yan, ha? Pero ang culprits, mga kapatid. They were partners in crime, except for the youngest, Benjamin, who was probably still a baby anyway. And the eldest, Reuben, who at least did his best to try to save Joseph. The story says the brothers had already agreed to kill Joseph out of envy for all the special attention that he was getting from their father, Jacob. Inggit ang pinagmulan. Reuben tried to save his brother, Joseph, by suggesting, itapon na lang natin sa balon. He suggested to throw him into a dry cistern. But who would propose the idea of selling him as a slave to the Egyptian caravan that happened to be passing by? Judah. And it was too late nung naibenta na siya when Reuben came back and found out wala na si Joseph. And guess, magkano si Joseph? You heard it. How much was he sold for? 20 pieces of silver. 20 lang. The Gospels tell us that Jesus was sold by Judas for 30 pieces of silver. Mas mahal ng konti si Jesus kaysa kay Joseph. 10 pieces more. Siguro dahil sa inflation rate. In today's gospel, we heard the parable of the father who naively sent his own son to negotiate with the rebellious tenants. Very much like Jacob, he did not know that he was sending his beloved son like a prey to a pack of wolves. The writer ends the parable by asking the audience what they thought the father should do to the son's murderers. Anong sagot ng audience? Revenge. And I wonder how Jacob would react to that suggestion. How could he take a revenge against the murderers of his son if they were also his sons? Jesus himself simply ignores the revenge suggested by the audience. Rather, he explains how this wicked deed would redound to something good He speaks about the stone rejected by the builders becoming the very cornerstone, which will hold the structure together. You will understand what he means by going back to the happy ending of the Joseph story. How Joseph the betrayed will become Joseph the Redeemer. Suggestion ko lang, may homework kayo. Basahin ninyo Genesis chapters 37 to 50. I assure you, mag-i-enjoy kayo. It is very captivating. Para sa akin, it is one of the most dramatic stories in the whole Bible. Parang tearjerker na telenovela. Let me summarize the ending. Fast forward, many years later, the brother they had envied and whom they had sold as a slave has now become the powerful governor of Egypt. He has been appointed by the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, to serve as the chief steward of all the food provisions of Egypt. Just when famine, nagkaroon pa ng taggutom, a famine struck the whole world, including the land of Canaan, where Joseph had come from. And lo and behold, who would come to Egypt to buy food provisions for their family? Tadaan, mga kapatid niya. His own wicked brothers who sold him for 20 pieces of silver and who declared him as dead to his father. Suddenly, they come before him. Chance na ito ni Joseph to take a revenge. Bukas luluhod ang mga tala. But like all the earlier episodes in Joseph's story, God would give the climax a dramatic twist. Joseph actually was already plotting a revenge against his brothers. He accused them of being spies. Pero syempre, hindi na siya kakilala. Nag-iba na yung itsura. And he demanded that they leave one of their brothers, whose name was Simeon, na parang hostage, before sending them back with food provisions to Canaan. And they could only get their brother Simeon back on the condition na dalhin daw nila yung bunsong kapatid na si Benjamin. And so, they returned to Canaan with food provisions, but they break the father's heart. And Jacob was very sad when they told him that they left Simeon behind as a hostage, and they could only get him back kung babalik sila at dadalhin si Benjamin, their youngest brother, ang bunsong kapatid. Since the famine had become worse and they needed to buy more food, eventually, they succeeded in persuading Jacob na payagan na si Benjamin to go with them to Egypt. And so they travel again to Egypt. This time, kasama na si Benjamin. But Joseph was bent on taking a revenge. Pinrain up sila ni Joseph. And this time, they are accused of stealing a silver cup. And the silver cup is found in the bag of Benjamin. And Joseph tells them, okay, you can go back to Canaan, but you have to leave your youngest brother, Benjamin, here. Hindi mabata ni Judah. He is unable to bear the thought of breaking his father's heart all over again. The original traidor was Judah. But this time, he could not bear it. He would do something that would move the heart of Joseph. He would dare to face Joseph and say, "No, parang awa na ninyo. Please, not Benjamin. Kung gusto ninyo, ako na lang ho. I am willing to stay as hostage in place of Benjamin. I will exchange my life for him. My father will die if he loses another one of his beloved sons." And that will now lead Joseph to a breakdown. Naghahagulgol si Joseph. Talagang daig pang telenovela. You really should read your Bible, you know. Suddenly, sa gitna ng pag-iiyak niya, he would say, "I am Joseph." Shocked ang mga brothers. Parang biglang nakilala siya. Ang sabi niya, "I am your brother, the one you sold as a slave into Egypt." But brothers, do not be afraid. Do not blame yourselves. It was really for the sake of saving lives that God sent me here ahead of you. God sent me here to save your lives. So it was not really you. It was God who made me come here and made me governor of Egypt. That is his way of saying, "I forgive you." Wow! What a story. Ang Judas sa Old Testament is Judah. The Judas figure undergoes a conversion. He offers his life to redeem his brother. And that becomes the point of reconciliation between Joseph and his brothers. Beautiful. In the gospel, Jesus becomes the Joseph figure, the rejected stone that becomes the cornerstone. He offers his life for the redemption of his own murderers.